So we will call our regular meeting to order with a roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton.
Here.
Commissioner Barwick.
Here.
Commissioner Webb.
Here.
Commissioner Steckland.
Here.
Mayor Absher.
Here, would you all stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item number 3 on the agenda is our time for public comments and our audience to any visitors. This is the opportunity for anybody to speak to the council, subject to Ordinance 3128 and amended by 3134, both of which are up here by this planter on the counter. So would anybody like to speak to the council? I know you do, Donnie. Anybody other than Donnie? Okay, it's all yours.
Good evening. Okay, I was going to start out with saying, last time I was here, I mentioned a scripture verse, and it was, "An unequal balance is an abomination to the Lord." And I said that was Proverbs 11:31, but that's Proverbs 11:1. So in this day and hour, it's good to have a right correction when it's needed. Okay. So anyway, my thought that I had today. I didn't have a specific thing, but this came to me this morning about the scripture verse. It's Ephesians 5:26, and it talks about, and I'm going to read this here. It talks about that the Lord, that He uses His word, that He may sanctify and cleanse us with the washing of His word. And so that just kind of triggered me today. And so the word of the Lord has an ability, it talks about, just think about that, the washing of the word of the Lord. And so like I put down here, it brings a protection, a direction, and a provision to the territory. So the word of the Lord does that. Okay. So it cleans and sanctifies, heals, and sets apart. And so like in this day and hour, how there's so many crazy things in the world, it's good to be set apart, separated from some of this ridiculous, these ridiculous mindsets that are just bizarre and so inappropriate, so destructive to human life. But the word of the Lord has an ability to set you apart or sanctify. That word sanctify means to be set apart. Okay, now an example of this is how the word of the Lord cleanses you and sets you apart. Here's a scripture verse about that. I've thought about this scripture verse for 2 weeks since last time. This is Zechariah 5:3. It says, "There's a curse that goes forth over the face of the whole earth for everyone that lies and steals." So if you enter into lying or stealing, there is a curse in place over the whole earth. So when you lie and steal, you're going to be affected by a curse. Now that's how the Lord washes you with His word. That makes you think twice before you lie and steal. See how that washes and cleanses and sanctifies you? It sets you apart from wanting to lie or steal. Because when you do that, you're going to be cursed. Now, I'm going to say it one more time. There is a curse that goes forth over the face of the whole earth for everyone that lies or steals. It covers the whole earth. So you don't want to lie or steal. Okay. All right. Keeping it a little bit lighter. Okay. And so I put down here, there's certain things that are very detrimental because they make people lie and steal. And I mean, you can get involved. You can get real deep in the drug problems and all this stuff. But one of the problems with certain things that are, drugs and stuff like that, it's because they force people to become thieves. If you do that, you end up being a thief. And so that's why, okay, I just put down that, I think you probably understand that. Certain things are very detrimental because they make people lie and steal. I put down here the dope destruction. It's a destruction not just to the person, but the community they're living in. And I mean, there's got to be, it's a supernatural solution to that stuff, but it's detrimental not just to the person, destroying their lives and making them into nothing, but also it affects their community because they end up stealing from people, and that messes up, the community. They steal from their neighbors because of the stuff they're involved in. Okay. All right. Now that was the example of how the word of the Lord cleanses you and sets you apart because, it warns you that not to lie or steal, and then also it gives direction. And so here's a scripture verse about that. It says, learn to do well. There's more to this scripture verse, but I just want to focus on this part of it. Learn to do well, seek judgment, and relieve the oppressed. And so that's Isaiah 1:17. And I put down here, some people are oppressed by others, and some people are oppressed by their own behavior. Are you following me? So that relates back to the situation before. And you can relieve people that are oppressed by their own behavior by just telling them to stop doing that. I mean, you have like help and shelters and stuff for people, but you've got to tell them, hey, if you keep doing the dope, you're not going to make it. That's just a reality. You can't keep doing that stuff. You got to stay away from it. Some things that's the only way to overcome some things. You just stay away from it. And so if you can give them all the hamburgers you want, but if you don't tell them they need to stop doing that stuff, it ain't going to help them none. Hamburger ain't going to rescue you from that. Okay. I put here, that's what I've just put. To overcome some things, you must just stay away from them physically and also in your mind. I say that over and over every day. I say, Lord, then this is script, this is a prayer. Okay. Is that 5 minutes or 4?
5, but go ahead, finish up.
Okay, I'll just, okay. Okay. So some things you have to stay away from physically, but also the thoughts of that, and I was going to mention that scripture verse, Lord, let the meditation of my heart and the words of my mouth be acceptable in your sight. So the meditation of your heart is what you think about. There's certain things, hey, you can't even think about that stuff, or you'll end up doing it. Okay, I don't want to waste any. Okay. All right. And two, I'll just say that, just along with that, and I'll let you go. But it's Proverbs 11:31. I said that scripture was that last time, but it was Proverbs 11:1. And I'll just read Proverbs 11:31, the one it says, behold, the righteous shall be recompensed in the earth, much more the wicked and the sinner. So that's a little bit of warning. If you do right, you'll be rewarded in the earth, but if you do wrong, you'll be rewarded more, even, it says, in the earth. Okay. And have a good night. But hey, here's another one, just for free. It says, the word of the Lord is health to your flesh and strength to your bones. That's Proverbs 4:22, 16, 24. I appreciate it. Have a good night.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. We have 2 items, A and B. Cody, you want to talk about this A1 just real quick? I just don't want there to be some confusion over this, given the miners' announcement a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, part of their announcement is that they're trying to rethink ways to use that ballpark, and one of which is consistent with this tournament. So they, with that said, they would have committed the field for that purpose for next year. So our due diligence at this point is to enter into this contract and pay this deposit for next year's tournament, which is what is on the agenda tonight to approve.
Okay, anybody from the council? It seems kind of silly to ask. There's only 2 items. You want either of these voted upon separately for any reason? Anybody from the audience want these voted upon separately? Okay, before we can discuss, I would need a motion to pass the consent agenda.
I would make a motion to pass the consent agenda as given.
I'll second.
Okay, any question on these or changes to the minutes or anything? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay?
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Item 5 under new business, Commissioner Barwick.
So I'd like to make a motion to approve the recommendation of the Merit Board to hire Javante Coleman to the position of patrol officer per the collective bargaining agreement at $25.94 per hour. That's for a probationary 2 officer, to fill the vacancy left by the retirement of Assistant Chief Tina Morrill. The start date would be November 1st, 2021.
I second that.
Okay, any questions on this? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay?
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Chief?
Thank you very much. As you all know, Tina's retiring, officially gone the end of this week. So I'm very happy to announce that we have found a new hire to replace that opening, and that is Javante Coleman. Javante comes to us from the Pulaski County Sheriff's Department. So, Javante, would you come up, please? Congratulations. Smile for the pictures.
Did you get it?
When I hired him, I learned something and I didn't know before, that Wren Lake had a wrestling program. I didn't know that. So Javante comes to Illinois on a wrestling scholarship. So, very interesting. So anyway, Javante, would you like to say something to the council?
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to allow me to serve the people of Marion. Hope to do great things for this community here in the near future. And I want to thank you guys again for the opportunity. Thank you.
Shake your hand. Welcome aboard.
Glad to have you, sir.
Glad to have you.
Welcome aboard. Next Tuesday, or Monday, next Monday.
Okay, item 5B.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the recommendation of myself and Chief Fitz to hire Mary Kathleen Griffith as records clerk for the police department to fill the vacancy that will be created by the upcoming retirement of Linda Tondini. Starting date of November 1st, 2021, per bargaining agreement at $13.99 per hour.
I second that.
Okay, any questions on this? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay?
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay.
I'm sure most of you remember Kathleen, retired patrol sergeant. The job she's going to be going into, that system is not an easy one to learn. She knows it, so this should be a smooth transition. You have big shoes to fill, lady.
We didn't break the camera.
Do you want to say anything?
Thank you very much.
Welcome back, I guess, but I don't know that you've ever actually completely left, have you?
Before I sit down, can I mention and remind everyone, this Saturday night, 5 p.m. is our annual Spooktacular. It will be at Rent One Park. Everything will be outside, so if anybody's worried about social distancing, being too close to anybody else, it's all outside this year. There is no spook house. We hope to bring that back next year. Okay, so we still need a few more trunks or tables. If people want to come out and help pass out candy, we still need a little extra help. So Saturday, the 30th, 5 p.m. Rain date is Sunday, the 31st, 5 p.m.
So can anybody from the community do that? Or
Absolutely,
have
yes,
to be
sir.
a group, or just an individual can bring a table?
They can.
Okay.
Yeah, go to, I believe on the city's website or our website, there is a place on there, correct me if I'm wrong, Cody, but there is a place on there for the Spooktacular where you can go in and register. That way, Detective Dwyer, who is overseeing this, she can kind of keep a count of how many we have and who will be there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Could you guys maybe help out by publicizing that a little bit and see if, okay, great. All right, item 6A, Commissioner Stecklin.
Okay, item 6 is a really large announcement for the city. For those of you that may or may not know, the Crab Orchard Wildlife Refuge has maintained their own water and sewer system for decades, and it's falling into disarray. It's been out there since the 40s, correct me if I'm wrong. So they approached the city and asked us to kind of get involved with that. So Cody, do you want to explain a little bit about what their it's a win-win for both U.S. Fish and Wildlife and the city of Marion, so.
Yeah, so as I informed all of you last week of, so they reached out to us about replacing their public works functions, their water lines, their sewer lines, and then for us to deliver water through those lines to them and a couple of their tenants that they have out there in General Dynamics and the prison, the U.S. prison. So it's a big project for us. We anticipate it's going to be in total over a $16 million project to do that. We, of course, will hire subcontractors out to do the physical work. So we won't be using city manpower for that. But going forward, those lines will become city property, and we will maintain those lines going forward. But as Commissioner Steckland stated, it is a big opportunity for us, and they will become one of our larger water customers as a result of this as well. So should be a good project.
To clarify for the public, the federal government's paying for
Yeah, that $16 million is not an investment of the city. That we will have zero net expenses out of this. Any of our expendables will be reimbursed through the federal government. So this has cost the taxpayers $0 going forward.
Cody, does the water come from our system and the sewer go back to our system now?
The water does not come from our system now, and the sewer, I believe, is treated on site.
Okay.
It comes to Marion. Okay, so it does come to Marion now. So that won't be new service coming on the sewer side, but the water service will be newly coming from Marion.
There's no capacity issues?
No.
Yeah.
No.
We're essentially serving as project managers for the whole
Essentially,
project.
yes. Yes.
Just to clarify.
Yeah.
Did you read that as a motion?
Not yet,
Okay.
but I would love to. Any more? Is that good? Okay. Okay. Then I would like to make a motion to approve the contract with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to design and replace water and sewer lines throughout the Crab Orchard National Wildlife Refuge.
I'll second.
Okay, any other discussions or questions on this? Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay?
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Steckland,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Item 7A, we've got a guest, I think, and Cody can introduce this, but it's time to re-up our contract, or actually, maybe change our vendor, I guess is the right way to.
Well,
put that.
we're not currently under contract, so
Okay.
Affordable Gas and Electric, Jordan is here from Affordable Gas and Electric. With the winter season coming, we are currently on a month-to-month variable rate agreement with Ameren, which is, I say agreement, that's just our normal service through them. Obviously, with winter months coming, those rates tend to increase because there's more usage. I was talking to Jordan before the meeting. We use roughly 90,000 therms a year, 70,000 of which comes during those winter months. So this is coming into our peak season. Our most recent bill, we were paying around 59 cents a therm, and in front of you would be an agreement with a low bidder Constellation at 48 cents a therm for a 48-month contract. So that would be my recommendation, and I'm sure if you have questions, more specific questions for Jordan, but I believe that would be his recommendation as well. That would lock us into that rate for 48 months. Knowing with inflation, a lot of things are rising right now. Natural gas prices would likely be one of those outside of even just the winter season. So locking in that rate for 48 months would presumably be a good thing for us going forward. Hard to predict the future, but likely.
Historically speaking, do our gas rates drop much below that 59 cents that we're paying now in the spring or the summer?
Jordan, do you want to? Yeah, why don't you come up here and.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Historically speaking, natural gas is seasonal. The winter months tend to be the higher priced months, where spring, summer, and fall, you do tend to see declines in the market. That hasn't happened this summer. this summer, natural gas production in the U.S. has been down. A lot of that may be attributable to COVID. Some of that may also be that natural gas producers are seeing rates at higher levels and saying, hey, if we just don't overproduce like we historically have, we can keep that price high and be better off from their standpoint. So this summer, we haven't seen that, and then going into this winter poses some serious risk for natural gas because Europe is in extremely tight storage situations on natural gas. Their natural gas markets are out of control right now as far as pricing, and the U.S. is exporting record levels of natural gas to Europe. At the same time, we're still in a tight storage situation here. So the last 4 or 5 years, the market has been relatively flat and stable on natural gas. The market graph that I handed out to you guys before the meeting, that shows what natural gas prices have been doing this year. And the Energy Information Administration put out notice roughly a month ago that expectations for this winter, our natural gas prices could really escalate to levels we haven't seen in quite some time for sustained periods, not just like last year in February, there was 3 or 4 days when Texas had all the issues that affected the rest of the country. This year, we're talking sustained price increases on natural gas. So, and that's going to dovetail into 2022 and possibly the winter 2022, 2023. So, to Cody's point on the 48-month recommendation, I did some quick math over there. Best case scenario, if the city took a 24-month rate today and the market did fall back down to levels we saw before, where you were roughly paying about 40 cents a therm for natural gas, net, the 48-month price today is about $6,000 more than that best case scenario. That's assuming everything good happens and natural gas comes back down. With inflation being here, gas prices are expected to stay up, energy prices are going up as well. That's something we're going to come review as well with the city very quickly. So to echo Cody's comments, we would recommend 48 months at this time with Constellation as the low bidder.
And a point of clarification, these are just for city accounts?
Correct.
These are not for our customers around town. This is just for our buildings that use natural gas.
Along with that, we don't do aggregate pricing for gas then like we do electricity for the residents?
Yeah, that's correct.
That's not allowed in the state right now.
Okay.
Residential choice on natural gas is not an option. It's only for electricity.
On your email, forgive me if this is a stupid question, but what does 100% swing mean?
100% swing, I'm glad you did bring that up. For electricity prices, when we bring your electric contracts to you, we give you a fixed price. It covers all your kilowatt hours, no matter how much you use above or below what's expected. Natural gas, suppliers used to just, you would buy about 85% of your expected gas, and then you'd get the remainder from the market at the settlement price, because the rules in Illinois for gas make us balance at the end of every month. That 100% swing allows you not to have to worry about that. It incorporates any gas above what's nominated, you're charged the same rate. Likewise, if you use if you use less than what was nominated for that particular month, you don't have to sell that gas back to the market, which comes at a cost. So the 100% swing adds about roughly about a penny and a half to the rate. So, 47 to 48 and a half. It's worth it, in our opinion, to have that and not have to worry about balancing back and forth at the end of the month. And, especially when you're talking about gas prices being what they could be this winter, you don't want to have any exposure to that at all. And that 100% swing takes that away.
Okay, we can still continue discussing, but I'm going to make a motion so that we can. It would be my motion to approve AGE's 48-month quote for natural gas per therm of 48.6 cents. That's yeah. Through Constellation Energy.
I would second that.
Any other questions? Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay.
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Steckland,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Before we go to commissioner reports, I want to give you guys an update on something here. We had discussed maybe 2 meetings ago, the Boy Scouts and putting a project of putting flags on the, I didn't make copies of this, but just, that's the locations around the square where all these, I think there's 26 of these. These are the actual brackets that'll go on our black light poles out there. And then these, we had a lot of discussion of who maintains this. These things will stay on the pole. And then these simply twist, kind of screw apart each section, so they're not hard at all to get. And then the flags will just clip in here so that we can, our own crews can put up and down the flags as time comes. What's interesting that is, if you hold this thing, you can tell what the expense that was involved in those. This Tyler Hughes, the Boy Scout, Eagle Scout candidate in question, actually got those donated from a company, and when he told him what this project was. I'm mentioning that, not only has he got good sales skills, but the money that we had talked about donating towards this project, I think we already wrote a check back to his mom for the flags, between $300 and $400. We had said we would do $1,100 or so. But he ended up getting this whole project done for about $300 or $400. So I was kind of impressed with that. But
Awesome.
Are these 3x5 flags?
3x5. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I thought you guys might like to just see an update of what those he's going to be doing. His goal was to have those up well before Veterans Day, so I think that's reasonably imminent. He's got the poles, he's got these. I think he was actually waiting on the flags to come in, if I recall right. So you should see those come. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, the Elks is the one that bought the flags. That's why I think Elks actually saved the city some money. Thank you. I'm sorry for getting that. And I think you may have had something to do with that. Okay, Jim.
Yeah, working on sidewalk still on Duncan, 7th Street and Holland Street. We're putting a new crosswalk and some sidewalks out near the new bus station out on the West Main.
I'll talk about under.
One other item on streets would be the fall cleanup, November 8th through the 19th, so keep that in mind. There'll be a schedule out on the city website. Cemetery, everything's good shape out there, getting ready for the winter months. JD did tell me that we've had several weddings the month of October in Goddard Chapel, so that building's being used, and that's all I've got. Thank you.
Okay, John.
All right, water department update. Crew at the water treatment plant's been very busy as always. We've had 14 updates to services, 4 new water taps, 5 water leak repairs, fire hydrant repaired. They've been busy repairing yard work that was done to make sure kids are safe for Halloween, so there's no big, dirt piles and stuff on the street getting to and from houses. So, from the water department office, once a year, the state requires us to send unclaimed property, which are deposits that have not been claimed by inactive customers in the last 3 years. This year, we have sent a total of 35 unclaimed deposits back to the state, totaling $2,817.22. Before these deposits are sent to the state, our office makes multiple attempts to reach the customer by phone and by mail. So if you believe that you have an unclaimed deposit, you can call the water department, and they will sure let you know if you do or don't. Couple of announcements. Chief report about the Spooktacular this Saturday. Don't forget that. That's out at Rent One Park. I'd also like to remind everybody about Marion's trick-or-treating, which is Friday, the 29th, from 5 to 8. That's the official trick-or-treat times for the city of Marion. So that's the 2 trick-or-treat things going on. Mark your calendars for the Southern Illinois Chili Cook-Off, happening the first part of November. It'll be held at the Elks from 10 until 4. For details, you can call the Marion Elks Lodge right here behind City Hall. All right, so it is trivia night tonight, so
Ooh.
we do have trivia. I know you're almost, okay, so, did you know that water covers about 71% of the Earth's surface? And of that, 96.5% of that is ocean water. So the question, how much of the water in the entire world is drinkable right now?
All of it.
No. No.
How much is drinkable?
What percent is drinkable? Like you can't drink ocean water, okay? So
You can.
Can.
you can, but I wouldn't want to be
You just
around
might
you
not
about an
survive
hour
it.
after you do. Okay, all right. Not bad, not bad. The answer is 1% of all fresh water is easily accessible in rivers, lakes, and streams. The rest is stuck in glaciers and snowfields. That's why water is good to the last drop. There you go. So, about 1%. That's all I have.
John?
I have a report from the Marion Police Department for the month of September. There were 114 city ordinance violations, 27 warrant arrests, 427 incidents were reported, 170 traffic accidents, and 6 DUI arrests. There were 4,650 dispatched calls, 2,329 911 calls, and 351 ambulance calls. For the month of September, Marion Police Department Narcotics Unit had 71 total cases, 51 arrests, 4 controlled drug purchases of crystal meth, heroin, or fentanyl, 33.5 grams of crystal ice methamphetamine, 16.2 pounds of cannabis, 17 cannabis plants, 2 hits of LSD, 1 gram of liquid fentanyl, 48 doses of various prescription-controlled substances. 2 search warrants were conducted, 1 seizure warrant for a vehicle, $4,026 of U.S. currency was seized, 3 firearms, 12 drug paraphernalia citations were issued, 973 rounds of ammunition, 18 warrant arrests, 27 traffic citations, and 7 alcohol-related citations. The narcotics unit has been doing a tremendous job. The Marion Police Detective Unit had a total of 51 cases. It's going to highlight the aggravated discharge of a firearm. There were 3 of those, 5 burglary, 4 death investigations, 4 runaway juvenile, 3 theft, 12 theft of motor vehicle, 2 unlawful use of credit card, and 6 vehicle burglary cases. Might want to remind people, if you leave your vehicle outside, please lock your doors. A lot of these doors are unlocked and people go into the car and take what you have, so keep your doors locked. The Marion Fire Department for the month of September had a total of 76 calls. 7 were 100 series fire, 7 were 300 series rescue and EMS, 10 400 series hazardous conditions with no fire, 21 service call, 500 series service calls, 10 600 series good intent calls, 20 activated alarms, and 1 severe weather and natural disaster, a total of 76. And that's all I have.
Doug?
I don't have anything from the treasurer's office. However, I would like to read something from the Boynton Street Community Center. On behalf of the after-school All-Star Program staff, volunteers, and students, I would like to invite you to the annual Lights On After School Open House. The event will be held October 28th at between 5 and 6. Join more than 8,000 communities and 1 million Americans in celebrating after-school programs for this year's Lights On After School. This nationwide event, organized by the After School Alliance, calls attention to the importance of after-school programs and the resources required to keep the lights on and the doors open. This year, our program serves a limited group of 23 students in the Marion Unit, from the Marion Unit 2 School District. And they would ask that if you want to attend or plan on attending, that you wear a mask. I thought I would read that just to make sure everybody was aware of that. That's all I've got.
Okay. I've got a update from Club 60, and it's 3/4 of a page long, so I'm just going to hit the highlights of it. The club continues to serve at full capacity on both carry-out meals and indoor dining. That's important to mention because we had carry-out meals last year throughout COVID. Then we went back to indoor, only to find out that there was still an overwhelming demand for the carry-out as well. So they're doing both, and that's still yielding, even though they're at capacity indoor, they're still doing 60 seniors a day with additional takeout meals. They're starting a new gospel quartet next Monday, and she wants me to remind everybody that they've got all kinds of activities from drum exercises, cards, billiards, quilting, crochet, crafts, painting, holiday parties, and special classes with U of I Extension, and of course, still with bingo. They do ask that masks be worn indoors whilst not eating. So earlier in the month, they partnered with Marion's Medicine Shop Pharmacy to provide a flu shot clinic. And tomorrow, the Medicine Shop will also be hosting a COVID booster clinic from 10 in the morning to 1 in the afternoon. All 3 brands of the major vaccinations will be available to those who qualify. They ask if you're interested to bring your ID, your COVID vaccine card, and Medicare or insurance card. They've also been working with Egyptian Area Agency on Aging and Williamson County Programs on Aging to provide free Medicare enrollment help. And this is somewhat of a complicated process, so she'll remind me to have anybody that needs help with Medicare enrollment to call the Club 60 or the Senior Citizens Center, 997-9019, to schedule an in-person appointment. And lastly, they do have a few more of $25 farmers market voucher booklets available to some seniors that might qualify. Simply call Club 60 if you need a voucher booklet, and they will be happy to help. One per person over the age of 60 who qualifies with a valid ID. And as a further reminder that the farmers market will run through the week of Thanksgiving every Saturday morning right there on Club 60's parking lot from 6 a.m. to noon, and those vouchers can be spent there. So we'll move on to miscellaneous on the agenda. And before we get into the residential TIF discussion that we'd ended with the last meeting and asking for your ideas, you have an update that looks very similar in form to what was in your packet last week. You wrote this, Monica, so do you want to speak to the council? We can't promise we're going to do any or all of this, but since you put so much work and then updated it and sent it twice, is there anything you'd like to highlight or talk about? Do you mind? Yes, really.
Thank you again for considering my proposal. I recently moved back to Southern Illinois, and when I started looking at houses, I drove around Marion and I saw what was happening on the square, and I was so impressed. And my dream was always to live in an old house, and so I decided what better place to live was, somewhere around the square, because I saw restaurants opening, I saw just this life. And so I did purchase a home on South Market, and I love my home, I love my street, but there are a few things I'm concerned about, and that's why I wrote the proposal. South of Mitchell, Boynton Street to Mitchell, there's a lot of open space that concerns me. The sidewalks are broken up. They're not really safe. There's poor lighting. And it just seemed to me that would be an opportunity for the city to develop that area simply by planting things and making it prettier and more inviting. After I bought my house, when family and friends wanted to come see me, I would say, you can't come from the south. You have to go up on the square and then go south, because I didn't want them to get a poor feeling about where I moved to. I want South Market to be inclusive. I want everyone who lives on South Market to have opportunities to walk to the square safely and so on. So that was my main purpose in writing my proposal.
Did you end up meeting with some of the neighbors? You and I, I think you started with Cody actually, but you and I met, and that was one of the things we talked about, is you potentially meeting with some of your neighbors to.
I have spoken to about 4
Okay.
neighbors and have shared this proposal with them. They all seem like they are in favor, and they also have similar concerns that I do. You know, I just think with everything that's going on this square, it would be great to get the community around the square to feel a part of it.
Well, I had a real specific reason for asking that very specific question.
Okay. Well,
So let's just pretend for a moment we provided some plants. Would you guys plant them? I mean, is there a pool? Well, I mean that
right.
genuinely. Is there any pool of resources? Because we won't be able. Our discussion tonight, just to be clear, there's a very large section of town that these funds potentially can and should be spent. It's not just one specific area. So part of that needs to be part of our subsequent conversation here. How do we get the most effort out of what ultimately will be a reasonably small amount of money? But that's one of the questions that we need to ask of neighborhoods as we do this, is if there's a vested, interested group of residents in that neighborhood that could maybe help us get more out of it than we could on our own, that very well may help, guide us as to where we go first, for example.
Volunteers would be very important. And
Yes. Potentially.
I was involved in the state of Washington with Friends of Trees. And I'm assuming that Illinois would have something similar to that. And they were very active in helping communities with projects like this and making the trees available at a very low cost. So I've looked a little bit, Googled that a few times to see if I could figure out what's going on in Illinois, but I would definitely spend some time doing that. I could also knock on doors and try to get volunteers, of course, within the community. But I'm hoping that there would be interest and volunteers, and I think there would be, but I can't say for sure.
Okay. Glenn, specifically on the area that's east of the big ditch, east of the ditch, west of Market, north of Boynton, I know we can't build anything on that because of our agreement with the feds that did that work, but is there any reason that can't be livened up and trees planted or anything there? Just no structures, right? Okay. Yeah.
And in addition to that, complete in agreement with your trees, shrubs, and perennials. I think that's a great idea. The only problem with that is if it's the area between the sidewalk and the back of the curb, we have power lines to contend with. So if we plant a tree that grows to be 30 feet tall, you know what's going to happen. They're going to come along and the utility companies are going to whack the top out of it.
Right, that's
So
why
if-
there would have to be people who know their trees.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we have to be careful on what we pick and where we plant to
Yes.
avoid that very thing. But it's a great idea. I love it.
Well, thank you, and thank you for
All right, thank you.
putting this to paper like I had asked you to do, and you did it so well. So let's get that then back into our broader conversation. Again, these were thought starters from last time, and it's just an update of that. But I had asked you guys to brainstorm and think of some things that maybe we could do. And that's part of the discussion, part of the decision-making process. Do we take the money and concentrate it and spend it on one area, and the next year go to a different area and try to do something intensive versus more broadly for the whole area, like sidewalks might be, potentially we could put all that money into sidewalks, for example, and spread that all over the residential TIF. The other extreme of that might be just picking a specific street or neighborhood or limiting to grant programs or something that you guys might want developed for landscaping or roof or window replacement or whatever. I'm just looking for some guidance or some ideas as to what you guys, what direction you want to go.
I think if you've got a group that's interested like this and willing to roll up their sleeves on it, that's where I would go first. That's my personal thing, which may then spur the next group in the next neighborhood that wants to do the same thing, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I mean? Do we know from the city standpoint, I'm just thinking from the street department, I know we've talked a lot about power and secondary power and where you can put lights and where there's actually power there already. Are we good down South Market? Do you know?
I couldn't.
I'm not sure.
attest to
I don't
that.
think there's overhead down there. I think it's probably underground, isn't it?
I think it's overhead.
Down the street, down South Market. I thought it was in the alleys going down South Market.
Well, we'd have to scope all that out regardless. I mean, there's always going to be something that, some location that doesn't have power and we got to figure it out. So is that what you're saying? You'd like to see as streetlights? Is that one of your ideas?
That's part of it. Yeah. I mean, I think that was one of the concerns is that it's a little, dark. If you're going to make it a walking neighborhood, sidewalks number one, so you don't break your ankle. Light it up number two, which I think lends itself right into the to Tower Square at the same time. So that's
Maybe some more like decorative, like light poles as opposed to,
like these.
yeah.
Extend these all the way down. My only concern is maybe we as a council need to form some type of an opinion based on need. Obviously, I think some neighborhoods are in much greater need than other neighborhoods. And I'd hate to, I want to make sure that we get everything covered. We have an opportunity. I don't want to spend it in one location when it really should be spent in another location to help balance that scale out, if you will. And I'm not sure what that answer is, but I think we need to consider a lot of different options in a lot of different neighborhoods. That's my opinion.
Well, the one thing we're talking about here, though, is this will strictly be within the residential TIF, right?
Yeah, these
Money's generated
these
within
funds need to be in the residential, but there's lots of neighborhoods within that, so.
Within that same right.
Yeah.
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 I got you.
Is Boynton Street Community Center, is that in the TIF?
Yes.
Is it? So that could be eligible for some sort of project there too.
But again, I think I'm looking at you, Carmen. My goal is that we'll be able to allocate some ARPA funds. We're still trying to cross some bureaucratic I's, or cross some T's and dot some I's with that, but I don't think we'll need to use this for that, is my point.
Are
Do
there-
we have, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Are there any projections on what this TIF in future years? I mean, it's 270 this year or whatever, but I assume that will grow somewhat, but.
Just depends. If new stuff, what you're trying to create is a virtuous cycle, whereas people, this is what this is about. If we put streetlights, or if we improve, accelerate our sidewalks, or we start helping people with landscaping, roof repairs, whatever, it doesn't go very far and it goes very fast when you do that. But the point is, it's kind of what you hope to happen is these, at least from what I've read with other communities that have done stuff like that, it's kind of the same keep up with the Joneses mindset is that at least you're not seeing stuff that's not taken care of, and so you think, well, why am I going to landscape my yard or whatever? You're trying to create that virtuous cycle where people start investing back in the neighborhood. So if you do that, and ultimately tax assessments, that's the downside, is you improve it and your taxes go up. Or, better yet, and this is happening, this is where we'll benefit, and everybody will benefit for the first time in a long time, some of these lots. I think the term of art is infill lots, which we've just had vacant lots. There's been several new buildings, homes that go there that hasn't been really invested in years. And so that's ultimately what gets this going, is if new stuff gets built. And then all that increment we can then reinvest back into this stuff. So I think over time it will have substantial ability to impact it.
What would you think about possibly creating a committee, and we could name it Pride in the Neighborhood? We already have one person maybe who would maybe be on that committee, and see if we could get other applicants from different areas of this TIF district and let them come together, and, you know, different areas of the TIF district, they would have an idea of what is needed in their area, and then kind of put a plan together and see what.
So would we come up like with a budget for each area, for example?
Yeah, I would say maybe first, you know, have the committee, and their task, if we could get several people from different areas, you know, of this TIF district, and them come together, and she's already told what in her area, you know, the need would be. Someone else in their, okay, we need this, this, and this would work, this would work. And then we could either look, okay, each area, you know, a set amount, or if we've got one pot of money, what is most crucial being done first? You know, maybe they've got a sidewalk that's cracked, but these people don't even have a sidewalk. Maybe we need to, you know, try to do what we can, you know, until we actually look at what the other needs would be.
Okay.
Just an idea.
Okay.
I assume there's no timeline on spending the TIF. I mean, if for some reason something like you're saying takes a little bit of time to get going, and
Exactly.
we don't have to spend all that money in 2022 or whatever. So it could stack till the next year if need be. But
It could, but
Yeah,
I'm
probably
I'm
would.
kind of anxious to see stuff get improved.
well, I am
so,
too.
you
I am
know.
too.
I think we could get this up and running pretty quick.
Yeah.
Okay, you're appointed chairman of your committee. Congratulations. See how this works?
Raise your right hand.
Are you willing to do something like that? I mean, with your neighbors, and then we've got to try to figure out, what about Linda that came by earlier today? She was talking about Virginia
She would be
Street.
good for that area, yes.
Somebody came by today talking about not exactly the same issues, but concerns in her neighborhood, just happened to live on Virginia Avenue, so maybe we'll contact her.
Yes.
See if she might be willing to do that, and then, you know, maybe publish in the paper there if there's neighborhood groups or something within the residential TIF. If we could get some neighbor engagement like that, that would be good.
Maybe we could get them a map
I would say
of
make
where
sure
the
that-
TIF district actually is, and then you can maybe put it out, and because
Cody can get that for you.
a lot of people probably don't know whether they're in a TIF or not.
Yeah. Cody? Cody or me? Either one.
Could we somehow divide it up into different neighborhoods, districts, whatever you want to call it? Just some arbitrary division lines?
I'll work on putting together just based on some of the comments, I'll work on putting together like a solicitation for committee members. I'll include a map in there of the residential TIF and give them some parameters of things that we're looking for, and we'll get that out on the website. And there's like 3,300 parcels in the residential TIF, so I don't think mailing that out is probably going to be a good financial decision, because that 227 or 270,000 would get eat up pretty quickly in postage. But I'll work on putting together some sort of a solicitation for committee members, and then we'll see how much interest we get, and then we'll kind of go from there. And I will, with your approval, I'll sit in as an at-large member on that committee or something like that to help facilitate stuff from the city side.
Good.
Okay. Any other ideas on that, or any other passionate things you want to talk about under that that didn't get mentioned? I would like to see us, at least in certain areas, consider, and I know they're terribly expensive, but maybe we can come up with alternatives. If we could carry, it wouldn't necessarily have to be these exact same street lights, but I think that'd be kind of neat in the historic areas. One, there's an actual need for the light. There may be a more efficient way to do that than those street lamps, but I think that would be appreciated by all. I can see those coming down South Market. I can see them going on streets like Virginia, Everett, Thorne.
Yeah, I believe, behind Casey's and, all that used to be a TIF district, and I think they rezoned it, if I'm not sure, and cut out some of that neighborhood, commonly referred to as Jets Edition. That was once in a big TIF district.
It's in this TIF.
It's still in it?
Mhm.
I mean, my house is still in it. Just letting you know.
So what do you want done there, Carmen?
Come on, let you know.
No, I think all of that, basically it's
With all of the TIF districts.
in this residential TIF, it's not quite this simple, but it's basically this southeast quadrant of town bisected by Main Street, and
Some of this might be in the hub TIF over here.
a little bit of it is in the hub TIF. Most of this, as we move eastward, is that residential TIF.
I was trying to think, since you've been crossing out on Boynton Street, I feel if we move back this way north of it, I've still got some plans.
Okay.
And I would make a recommendation too, given the state of sidewalks, and that's something that we've discussed somewhat frequently as a council. I would make a recommendation that at some point we take 50% of that money and put it towards the sidewalk program to allow Doug and his crews to be more aggressive in some of these areas, because you're exactly right. If they're not busted, they're non-existent. And we have been working through that area for some new sidewalks, but none of that sidewalk work has used TIF money thus far. So whatever that ancillary number ends up being, I think we should commit something every year out of those TIF funds to the sidewalk program specifically. And
Correct me if I'm wrong, but
Won't go very far.
has it not been the city's policy to, I'm talking about non-TIF money here, that if someone wanted a sidewalk upgrade or needed a sidewalk, that if the homeowner, that the city basically would do the work for them?
Absolutely,
They
yeah.
do if they provide the material?
Absolutely, yeah.
So I think we should put that out there too, because, that's a win-win then.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll use TIF money where we need to, but also, it's a good deal for a homeowner anywhere, as long as we've got the crews to do it. You buy the materials and we put it in, so that's a pretty good deal.
Yep, absolutely.
I don't want to commit all your crews.
Well, we have a specific sidewalk crew at this point, so I mean, that's what they do full-time,
Yeah.
so.
But we also have about $6 million worth of sidewalks that need to be replaced.
I got you.
6 or 7. Does it matter? Does it matter? Between 6 and 7, that's, we did try to quantify it, and it's a very scary number. So that's why I'm saying, if we put 25% of this amount to that process. That, yeah, so it's a little overwhelming to think of the scale of what all needs to be done in that regard. It's kind of like replacing sewer lines, John. It's just, you don't think about it a lot.
At least you
until
see sidewalks.
you see sidewalks.
You don't see sewer lines
Yeah,
Until they break.
till they break.
yeah. Okay, anything else to come before the council? Anybody have a need for executive session? Okay, hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'd make a motion that we would adjourn.
Second?
Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay?
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay?
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Steckland,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay, thank you all for coming.